Getting into a car accident is it's always stressful. But when you find out the other driver doesn't have insurance, that stress can go through the roof. But don't worry, there is a clear path forward, and we are going to walk through it step by step.
It's the one question nobody ever wants to have to ask after a crash. You've exchanged info, or you've tried to, and then that sinking feeling hits when you realize the person who hit you is driving without any coverage at all. So, what on earth do you do now?
Okay, first things first. Take a deep breath. Don't panic. I know it might feel like you've just hit a complete dead end, but you haven't. There is a clear set of steps you can and should take to protect yourself and get the help you need. This is your roadmap.
So, before we dive into what to do, let's just take a second to understand the scale of this problem. Because getting hit by an uninsured driver in Florida, well, it's not just a case of bad luck. It's a very real risk for every single person on the road here.
It's a pretty shocking fact, but it's true. Florida consistently ranks right up there with the highest rates of uninsured drivers in the entire country. And what that really means is that your chances of ending up in this exact situation are way higher here than almost anywhere else.
All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. We're going to focus on what happens right after the accident. Because those first 2 weeks, those first 14 days are absolutely critical. Seriously, what you do or don't do in this short window can literally make or break your entire case.
Listen, these next 3 things, they're non-negotiable. First, you have to report the crash to the police. That official report is a crucial piece of evidence. Second, you have to get medical attention, even if you think you feel okay. And third, if you're physically able to, gather evidence. Take photos, get witness information, everything you possibly can.
Okay, I want you to burn this number into your brain. 14. Under Florida law, you have to seek medical treatment within 14 days of the accident. If you wait until day 15, you could lose your right to thousands of dollars in insurance benefits. It is an absolute hard deadline.
Now, this is where things might sound a little backwards. But after an uninsured driver hits you, the very first and most important phone call you're probably going to make is to your own insurance company. And here's why that is.
See, Florida is what we call a no-fault state. And all that really means is that, at least at the very beginning, it doesn't matter who is at fault for the crash. Your own car insurance policy, through something called Personal Injury Protection, or PIP, is designed to be the first one to step in and cover your initial medical bills.
So, every driver in Florida is required to have PIP coverage. It's the law. It pays for 80% of your initial medical bills and 60% of your lost wages, all up to $10,000. But, and this is a huge but, the real hero of this story is the optional coverage, Uninsured Motorist, or UM. This is the absolute game changer that protects you when your costs go way beyond that 10 grand, especially when it comes to things like pain and suffering.
That $10,000 in PIP coverage, it sounds like a decent amount, but believe me, it can disappear in the blink of an eye after a serious crash. So, how do you get compensation for everything else, for the real costs?
Now here's a really important legal hurdle you have to know about. To go after a claim for pain and suffering, your injury can't just be minor. Florida law says you have to meet something called a serious injury threshold. We're talking about things like a permanent injury, significant scarring, or losing a key bodily function. So when we talk about compensation, it's really broken down into 2 main buckets. First, you've got economic damages. Think of these as the things with a clear price tag. Your medical bills, lost wages, that kind of stuff. Then you've got non-economic damages. These are the very real, but harder to put a number on, impacts, like the physical pain, the emotional trauma, and just how the accident has totally changed your life.
Okay, so getting paid what you deserve isn't just about having the right insurance. You also have to play by some very strict legal rules and, more importantly, deadlines.
All right, pay close attention here because this rule is a really big deal in Florida. It's all about fault. If a court decides that you were more than 50% responsible for causing the accident, you are barred from getting anything. 0. And even if you're just, say, 10% at fault, any money you could get is cut by that 10%.
And here's the last critical number I need you to remember, 2. Because of a pretty recent change in Florida law, you now generally have only 2 years from the date of the accident to file a lawsuit. If you miss that 2-year window, your right to sue is gone. Forever.
Okay, so we've spent a lot of time talking about what to do after the worst has already happened. Let's switch gears for a minute. Let's talk about how you can protect yourself before an accident ever even occurs.
I've got 3 simple, powerful things you can do, like right now, today, to make sure you're protected. First, Actually pull out your policy and read it every year. Don't just let it auto-renew. Second, and this is the most important one on the list, add or increase your uninsured motorist, your UM coverage. It is the single best defense you have. And finally, look into something called MedPay coverage, which can help fill in some of the gaps.
And that brings us to the final, most important takeaway from all of this. I want you to go find your own insurance policy, look at the declarations page, and ask yourself this one simple question. Knowing the risks, knowing what's truly at stake on Florida's roads, is the coverage you have right now really enough to protect you and your family?